morning, everyone. The silence that suddenly appeared in this room shows that this debate is much anticipated in the current context in the Middle East. I think we're very privileged to have today two prominent speakers, former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert and former Minister of Foreign Affairs Nasser Al-Kidwa. I was planning to ask them to start to comment on the ceasefire, and last night suddenly hell broke out again in Gaza, and so I'm changing my question. Is it the end of the ceasefire? Is it, do you believe what happened yesterday was the beginning of a new war? What's your assessment of this very fragile and delicate situation? Mr. Olmert first.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, and I'm delighted, together with my partner, Dr. Al-Kidwa, to be your guest this morning. I think that I have a suspicion that both the Israeli side and the Palestinian side, the Hamas side, to be accurate, are not particularly anxious to maintain the ceasefire as it was proclaimed, as it was agreed and signed. There are fears within certain factions in Israel that the Prime Minister felt that he was forced to agree to the end of the war, but he is not quite happy. And that if there will be an opportunity to carry on, he will not miss this opportunity. And perhaps what happened yesterday was an opportunity given to him by Hamas. Hamas also is unhappy about the ceasefire because one of the possible outcomes of the end of the war and the military and political measures taken will attempt to disarm Hamas and to remove Hamas completely from any position of influence in Gaza, which is, of course, Hamas is unhappy about. So both sides seems to be a little bit restless. And the events of yesterday is a reminder. The only possible way to maintain the ceasefire, which is essential, this is a very beginning. We just need to remember that what was signed in Sharm el-Sheikh, what was announced, and this is the title of the document which was signed. It says, a comprehensive agreement to end the war in Gaza. This is not a peace treaty. This is not the beginning of peace. This is not a basis of peace. This is the first stage in ending the hostilities with the possible expectation that it may lead later to another phase and another phase until at some point a dialogue between Israel and the Palestinians will begin. So finally, it is incumbent on the Americans most of all. They are the sponsor of this. They take credit for good reasons. President Trump takes good credit for forcing the two sides to end the war. And now they have established a command position in Israel to supervise the implementation of the ceasefire. And I hope that they will do a good job, a very forceful and if necessary, aggressive politically, in order to make sure that both sides will keep the ceasefire rather than try to break it.
Thank you. Dr. Al-Kidwa, your reaction to those events?
Yes, good morning, everybody, and thank you for Paris Peace Forum, and thank you all for being here, especially those who are standing in the room. I know that sometimes it's difficult, but anyway, it's not going to be long. Listen, the Vice President of the United States yesterday said that the ceasefire holds. However, there has been some 50 Palestinians killed. Now, one could say it's collateral damage, but it breaks your heart to see all these guys dying. Now we have to move forward. And let me paraphrase something that a guy once said about the Middle East peace process generally. I'm not a big fan of him, but nevertheless, I think the description applies here. He says the Middle East peace process is like the old car that's going up the hill, that the car has no brakes. So as long as it moves forward, it's fine. But if it stops, it will go down. And that's exactly what we have now. If we stop, it would go down. We should not stop, and we should make sure that we are going to have the second phase, and we are going to have it appropriately. With all, frankness, I don't see that happening now. It's a messy situation, very messy situation, but nevertheless, I think it's doable. I think it's doable if we talk to each other enough, if we unify positions, if we deal with certain points, I think we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Olmert, you've described the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement as a phased process, and the first phase is almost completed, but not yet completed. Do you see really the second phase coming, which includes disarmament of Hamas?
The disarmament of Hamas is actually the beginning. It's actually the first phase. The first phase is ending the war, and in order for the war to end, Hamas needs not to have arms, because if the Hamas has arms as a terrorist organization without any pretension even to end the hostilities and terror against Israel, it is likely to start again. So the disarming Hamas needs to be articulated. What is to disarm Hamas? Hamas has been almost completely eradicated after 2 years of fighting in a very, very aggressive war between Israel and Hamas. Of course, all started on the 7th of October. What Hamas perpetrated on the 7th of October is unforgettable and unforgivable forever. This is not something that will be removed from the memories, the awareness, and the traumas that Israel and Israelis were going through. But then was the counteroffensive of Israel for 2 years. In the counteroffensive, most of what can happen by a military force to Hamas actually happened. Most of the rockets were destroyed, most of the tunnels were destroyed, most of the leaders were eliminated, most of the command positions were eliminated, most of the launchers were eliminated. So what Hamas has now is a very small fraction of what they possessed when it all started. Now, how to disarm Hamas? I'm sorry, I'm not a military guy. I don't know, and I'm not certain that someone can say in an accurate way, what does it mean? Can we find every single gun that is hidden somewhere in Gaza, and until then it will not be disarmed? I mean, what is disarmed? I believe that Hamas is practically in a very, very low position already, and when there will be an interim security force that will take over, made of Palestinians and of soldiers from moderate Arab countries, and perhaps also maybe some Europeans, it will be able to control Gaza in such a way that Hamas will not be capable of doing anything militarily. So what I'm concerned about is, and what I believe is what I understood, not only from what I heard now from Dr. Al-Kidwa, but what we exchange all the time, is that we need to resolve the framework of the situation in Gaza in order to provide a living for the 2 million people whose most of their houses and buildings were destroyed, and it has to be rehabilitated. And then there must be a new government that will control Gaza, which has to be, the government has to be Palestinian. I need to say, and I know that Dr. Al-Kidwa will also say it from his point of view as a Palestinian, but I have to say also as an Israeli, Gaza is part of Palestine. It's not part of Israel. And when I was the vice prime minister, together with Prime Minister Sharon, we pulled out and we dismantled all the Israeli settlements that were close to Gaza because we didn't think at that time that it should be part of this. Because Gaza is Palestine and it has to be part of Palestine and it will have to be part of the Palestinian state when Palestinian state is ultimately proclaimed as a part of an agreement that will be between Israel and Palestine. So I think that the basic objective that should concern us is how to make what we have achieved now, which is very significant and which certainly deserve a good credit for President Trump for forcing it on them, is to take it as a basis for a much broader approach to resolve the Gaza issues and then move forward to create the beginning of a dialogue between Israel and the Palestinians. If there will not be a dialogue between Israel and the Palestinian Authority on a comprehensive solution, the ceasefire will hold a year, half a year, or a year and a half, and then it will break. There ought to be a political horizon for the Palestinian people, and that's what we have to push for and aspire for.
Thank you. Dr. Al-Kidwa, you expressed some skepticism earlier in your first answer about the next phase of the agreement. Who can disarm Hamas and what kind of authority can take over in Gaza?
I think nobody can disarm Hamas. I think the idea that an international force will come to disarm Hamas is just ridiculous. You need to have some kind of political understanding. That's number one. Number two, in all honesty, Hamas is getting different messages from different people, different parties, and that ought to end. We need to unify positions. And let me tell you what I think with regard to Hamas. Saying that Hamas is not going to be a part of the governance of Gaza is not good enough. Hamas has to understand that this is a new era and has to commit to ending Hamas control over Gaza in all its forms, political, administrative, as well as security. Security means putting the heavy arms at least, because as Ehud Olmert said, we are not going to get into homes looking for pistols and pieces of guns. But heavy arms, we need to ensure that there is no reproduction of arms. We need to deal with the tunnels and things like that, serious things like that. In return, I have to say that the door should remain open for structural transformation of Hamas into a political party that could participate in the Palestinian political life under the Palestinian law that stipulates some conditions. And those conditions should be similar to what Ehud Olmert said, the quartet. I say, well, the quartet is dead now. Let's call it something else and try to find some good conditions that could apply to everybody. So this way, I think we can reach some kind of understanding, political understanding, that they have to disarm, they have to transform into a political party. But the idea that give me your arm and leave is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And there is no need for it to happen. We can solve the problem in a different way and in a more effective way. And of course, the second important issue is what Ehud Olmert referred to is governance. Because the original 20-point plan speaks of the Board of Peace, as you know, headed by President Trump himself, which could be a supervisory board, that's fine. The donors have the right to know where their money goes and that it goes in the right direction. No problem with that. But then it also speaks of a board of directors headed by Tony Blair that actually governs Gaza. This is totally stupid. It's not going to happen. It's non-starter. Any Palestinian land will be governed by Palestinians only. Supervised, yes. Looked at, yes. With some kind of policy discussion above, that's fine, no problem with that. but not actual governance. That's not going to happen. At the same time, we also understand that the Palestinian Authority itself is not going to come and govern Gaza. We need to think innovatively, in an innovative manner. We need to have a Palestinian body that is organically linked to the Palestinian Authority without actually saying this is the government or this is the authority that's coming and governing. And why we have to do that? To prevent any separation between Gaza Strip and the West Bank. We need to maintain the territorial integrity and the unity of the people. And the last important thing is, of course, security. The international force, we, in our proposed paper, we spoke of an Arab security presence, which I think was better. But some geniuses thought that no, international force. And now they are stuck as expected in the Security Council. It's very difficult to achieve that, to actually adopt something like that. But we can do it, The only thing here, I would say, that there should be also Palestinian security force in the amount of 10 to 15,000, and I know how we can do that, to cooperate and coordinate with the international force, providing that we understand that this force is not there to impose anything. It cannot impose anything. It's there to stabilize the situation and to help the Palestinian security force. Thank you.
Mr. Olmert, can any deal go through or move on with Mr. Netanyahu in power?
Sometimes when people ask questions, they are really, they don't know what the answer will be. And sometimes they ask the questions knowing in advance what the answer will be. So
that's true.
I've been working hard over the last couple of years across the world, including here in this great country, to make sure that everyone knows exactly what my opinion is about the Prime Minister of Israel. And I think there is no mistake about it at this point. I think that, unfortunately, regrettably, I have to say, regrettably, the Israeli government today and the Prime Minister completely sold out to the messianic fantasies and dreams of what Israel should be. That Gaza should be part of the state of Israel and should be inhabited, re-inhabited again, and re-establish all of the settlements which were dismantled by Sharon and myself over the last almost 20 years. And that the West Bank also will get slowly, but gradually and effectively get rid of the Palestinian inhabitants in order to claim all of the territory to become part of Greater Israel. This is, first of all, it's extremely important for me that people will understand that the politics and the rhetorics of some ministers in the Israeli cabinet, Netanyahu first and foremost, but also Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, and these became household names already in every corner of the world, that they don't represent the majority of the Israeli people. The majority of the Israeli people are against these policies, presently are against this government, and hopefully in the next elections, hopefully they will come sooner than they are scheduled to, but no later than next October, will help change the Israeli government into a new government. I don't know to say now when asked which may be the exact new government in Israel, who will become the most effective contender that will be able to form a new government instead of the government of Netanyahu. I don't know that. It remains to be seen. I know that it will be different. It will be normal. It will be balanced. It will be restrained. It will not be messianic. It will not be aggressive. And it will not look for military confrontations in order to accomplish messianic fantasies of certain small factions of the Israeli society. Now, we are moving towards this direction, and what you can see in Israel to this day, which is really extraordinary by common standards of the Western societies. For more than 2 years now, every single day, there are tens of thousands and sometimes hundreds of thousands of Israelis marching in the streets, rioting, demonstrating, protesting, fighting in order to save the soul and the principles and the values of what the society of Israel and the state of Israel was. And this is what we are fighting for today, to make sure that in the coming soon in the elections, this will be reinstated as a representation of the state of Israel. And I hope that next time I am invited to Peace Forum, I will be able to talk with my partner, Dr. Nasser Al-Kidwa, about the beginning of the dialogue that will help create a comprehensive solution on the basis of two states.
Thank you. Well, same question to you. What's happening on the Palestinian side? In his letter to President Macron and Crown Prince MBS, Mahmoud Abbas promised elections within a year. Is that going to take place? And what does the political landscape look like on the Palestinian side? I mentioned that you've just reintegrated Fatah after some time where you were, a dissident? What's the right word?
I like the idea that you said reintegrated, not returned, because I have never left Fatah, irrespective of some illegal decisions taken by a group of guys. So I remained Fatah. But of course, there was some positive attitudes, and my membership to the Central Committee of Fatah was reinstituted. That's not bad. Okay, listen, the main thing is that I believe that what applies to the Israeli side applies also to the Palestinian side. Irrespective, I have to be careful a little bit more than before, irrespective of what's the current situation. And even if the current situation is great, I mean, we have a 90-plus-year-old president. Change is something normal to happen. It should happen. And we need to go for elections, and we need to go for changes, structural changes in the Palestinian Authority that would allow the authority to play a much more effective role in the international political arena. Now, are we going to see elections soon in 1 year? I don't think so. First of all, let me remind you that the original promise was to conduct elections before the end of this year. And then it became 1 year, starting with the cessation of hostilities or the end of the war. It's not going to happen because of objective reasons, irrespective of what Mr. Abbas or President Abbas thinks of. We have 2 million displaced persons in Gaza. We have totally destroyed place. We need to create something resembling normalcy for them before we ask them to participate in an election and to vote, actually go to the ballot box. It takes some time, and it's not going to happen in 1 year. What do I propose to the French side, the Consul General that I met in Ramallah, is to be brave enough and say, okay, we are going to extend the grace period from 1 year to 3 years, but in negotiation with the president. But then we want certain things. We want your cooperation with regard to Gaza, including the use of the security force or part of the security force, and we want that you don't present your candidatures after the 3 years. So there will be some time, yes. It's going to be difficult. If something happens in between, of course, as many people say, we can have urgent elections, emergency elections. But if we have to wait until the end of it, we have to wait knowing that after that, things will go smoothly and that they are solved seriously and not only by just talking. Thank you.
Thank you. Last question, as we have a limited time. How do you reconcile your framework towards the two-state solution that you've been presenting in the past few months with the Sharm el-Sheikh plan and the current plan that is being set up?
Oh, I don't want to sound presumptuous and arrogant, but I presented, it is said in the statement that we made that our political solution, the territorial solution, is on the basis of what I proposed to Mahmoud Abbas, the president of the Palestinian Authority, in 2008-2009 when I was prime minister. Unfortunately, at that time, it was presented a comprehensive peace plan with 67 borders, with a very, very small annexation of territories and swap of territories equal size, and of the Arab side of Jerusalem to be the capital of Palestine, and of the old city of Jerusalem not to be under the sole sovereignty of either Israel or Palestine, but to be administered by a trust of few nations under the UN Security Council, and so on. So we didn't wait for the Sharm el-Sheikh to propose a comprehensive peace plan. I am happy and proud that the President of the United States and so many leaders from different countries seem to be moving towards this direction. Unlike President Macron and Prime Minister Stammer and Prime Minister Carney and others in Europe that explicitly already talk about a two-state solution, American president is still a little bit vague about it. So I can say this: I hope, I pray, I desire that the beginning which was announced in Sharm el-Sheikh will follow up with what Dr. Al-Kidwa and myself proposed, which is a comprehensive solution for the historic conflict on the basis of two states. And I just want to conclude by saying one thing. Everyone says to us, is it possible? Are people prepared to support it? Of course, there was a change of attitude in Israel as a result of the trauma of the 7th of October. There was enormous impact amongst the Palestinians as a result of the counter-Israeli offensive, which caused so much suffering and damage and killing and destruction in Gaza. There is no question about it. But, my dear friends, there is no alternative. There is no alternative. There is only one way which can resolve once and for all the bloodshed, the killing, the hatred, the military confrontations, the loss of lives, the loss of hopes, the loss of future for millions of people, and this is a two-state solution. And therefore, I am a firm believer, I am an optimist, that in spite of the present difficulties, in spite of what seems to be a lack of sufficient support for two states in the two different communities, the Israeli and the Palestinians, will overcome this together with the international community and will move fast, rapidly, towards the dialogue that will lead to a solution that will offer a new hope and a new future for all of us in the Middle East.
Thank you. Last word to you, Dr. Al-Kidwa.
Okay, seeing time out, I'll be very, very concise. Listen, as Ehud Olmert said, there is no other alternative. There is no other solution. And this is very serious. So what we proposed remains very valid. It needs a push. We have achieved some progress internationally, but we still have some problems locally on the side of the two, on the two sides that require some additional work. And I think with the cessation of hostilities, with the cessation of the war, we are going to witness some important changes among the communities on both sides. So number one, there is no alternative. I think this is very important. Number two, what we have now, the 20-point plan, has to lead us to the overall political solution that is in the form of two states, because again, there is no other solution. Thank you.
Thank you, both of you, for these comments at a critical time in this region, and we hope next time you come, we have better news. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.